A brand that once dominated the off-road trails dazzled on the asphalt and became the go-to name for motorcycle enthusiasts worldwide. KTM wasn't just another motorcycle company, it was a symbol of power, agility, and innovation. From Dakar rallies to the streets, KTM was untouchable. But here's the twist, this same powerhouse is now struggling. Its balance sheets are bleeding, customers are frustrated, and industry experts are asking the same question. What went wrong? Today, we're revving the engine and diving deep into KTM's downfall. Is it just bad luck, poor decisions, or something that's been brewing under the surface for years? Trust me, you'll want to stick around because the story of KTM's struggles is as complex as it is surprising. Oh, and a fun fact to kick things off. Did you know KTM started as a small repair workshop back in 1934? From humble beginnings to global fame, and now this. Let's unpack this wild ride step by step. Let's rewind to 2020. COVID-19 changed everything. People were stuck at home, itching for adventure. Motorcycles became the perfect escape. No crowds, no restrictions, just you, your bike, and the open road. For KTM, it was like striking gold. They ramped up production to meet the soaring demand. And for a while, it was a masterstroke. Sales skyrocketed, and KTM rode the wave of this motorcycle boom like a pro. They were producing bikes at a blistering pace, confident that demand would stay high. But here's where things took a turn. As the pandemic eased and people returned to their normal routines, the demand for motorcycles dropped dramatically. KTM found themselves with an inventory problem. More bikes than they could sell. Their showrooms and warehouses were stuffed with unsold units, forcing them to slash prices just to clear space. It's a classic case of misreading the market. While some competitors took a more cautious approach, KTM went all in, and it backfired. The question is, could KTM have been more strategic? Could they have slowed down production earlier to avoid this glut? Hindsight is always 20/20, but in this case, the overproduction was a costly mistake. If overproduction was a speed bump, then quality issues were a full-blown crash. Here's the deal. KTM built its reputation on delivering high-performance, reliable bikes. Riders loved KTM because they knew these machines could handle anything, from treacherous mountain trails to winding urban roads. But in recent years, things started to slip. Models like the 790 and 890, equipped with the LC8C engine, began showing major problems. Riders complained about engine failures, electronic glitches, and other issues that shouldn't happen on premium motorcycles. And let's be honest, when you spend thousands of dollars on a bike, you expect it to run like a dream, not turn into a nightmare. Riders started voicing their frustrations online, and word spread fast. Here's a question for you. What's worse than a product failing? A brand's reputation failing. And that's exactly what was happening to KTM. Trust is a fragile thing in the motorcycle world, and once it's broken, it's hard to rebuild. So why did these issues arise? Many point to KTM's rapid expansion. By trying to scale too quickly, they may have cut corners on quality control. It's a harsh lesson in the dangers of sacrificing long-term trust for short-term gains. Now let's talk numbers. Financially, KTM's situation is as rough as a trail full of loose gravel. In the first half of 2024, they reported a staggering 172 million euros loss. That's a sharp decline from the 53 million euro profit they posted during the same period in 2023. And it doesn't end there. Their debt levels, an 89% increase. That's like carrying a backpack full of bricks while trying to win a race. It slows everything down and makes even small missteps costly. What does this financial strain mean for KTM? Well, when a company's cash flow dries up, it affects everything: innovation, production, marketing, and even morale. KTM has been forced to cut costs wherever they can, and that often means scaling back on what made them great in the first place. But there's another layer to this story. Rising debt doesn't just affect day-to-day operations, it also scares off investors. Without their confidence and financial backing, KTM's ability to turn things around becomes even more challenging. It's a vicious cycle. Losses lead to cost-cutting, which leads to weaker products, which leads to even more losses. The big question now is, can KTM break this cycle before it's too late? So, what's KTM's plan to fix all this? In a word, restructuring. Think of it as a last-ditch effort to stabilize the ship. Under this process, KTM is negotiating with creditors and making tough decisions to cut costs and regain financial control. Here's what restructuring looks like for KTM. They're scaling back production, laying off around 300 employees, and focusing on clearing their inventory backlog. On paper, these moves make sense, but in practice, it's a tightrope walk. Cutting production means fewer bikes on the market, which could hurt revenue in the short term. Laying off employees risks damaging morale and losing skilled talent. And as for clearing inventory, that's easier said than done, especially when competitors are offering newer, more reliable models. Here's the real gamble. Restructuring only works if KTM can balance cutting costs with maintaining their brand identity. If they cut too deep, they risk losing the passion and innovation that made them a household name in the first place. But if they succeed, KTM could emerge leaner, stronger, and more competitive. It's a risky play, but at this point, they don't have many options left. The next few months will be critical in determining whether KTM can recover or if this is the beginning of the end. So, what does this mean for KTM enthusiasts and the motorcycle industry as a whole? It's a wake-up call. A reminder that even the biggest brands can stumble when they lose focus. KTM's story is a mix of ambition, missteps, and the harsh realities of business. But this isn't just a story about failure, it's a story about resilience. KTM has faced challenges before, and there's still a chance they can turn things around. The road ahead won't be easy, but if any brand has the grit to survive, it's KTM. Speaking of legendary motorcycle brands, if you're fascinated by the ups and downs of this industry, you'll love my video on the history of Harley-Davidson. It's a deep dive into how another iconic brand carved its place in history, faced its own struggles, and came out roaring. Click on the link and join me there. And if you found this video informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your fellow riders. Let's keep the conversation going, because in the world of motorcycles, there's always another story to tell.